You have probably noticed there's a new decoration in the room. Behind me, I have one of several posters that I've purchased to eventually put on the walls of this room that have parts of Martin Luther's Small Catechism in them. I chose this one and this position for it because this will be our next unit that will begin in a couple weeks after the Ten Commandments unit is over. And you will be expected over the course of 6 weeks to memorize this entire poster. I'm going to be breaking it up into halfway chunks, more or less, there. But this is the Apostles' Creed, and then underneath each article of the Creed, which is in bold, you have Martin Luther's explanation from the Small Catechism. So that's going to be a major focus of memory work. Of course, tonight you get the 8th and 9th commandments, and then the following week you get the 10th commandments and the close of the commandments, which Luther has some choice words about that. And then after that, we'll move into the Creed. But today, we're going to be talking about the 7th and 8th and 9th and 10th commandments. We've got 4 commandments to cover, so there's quite a bit of ground there. And to begin, we're going to quickly review what each of the commandments is designed to protect. Because that's what we talk about, right? That God's law is designed to protect us against sin. Not just the sins that we do, but also to kind of design God's whole world around holiness and everything that is opposed by sin. And so, who can remember what the first commandment actually is? Kaylee? Very good. And for this one, we're just going to put that that this is about God Himself. All right, God's. You know what? I'm going to change that. We're going to call that God's place, because that's going to fit the pattern that I'll be doing for the others. God's place in our lives. Okay, God should be first and foremost. What's the second commandment, Timothy?
You shall not misuse the name of the Lord your God.
Yes, that is that's the version that's in your catechism. But I asked you to memorize a slightly different, slightly better translation, which is, "You shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain." But I won't penalize you for memorizing the one that's actually written in places and in our liturgy in the church, because I haven't bothered fixing it's not a typo. I haven't bothered changing the liturgy itself, which I would like to do. But anyway, you shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain. So that is designed to protect God's name, which we're gonna be touching back on this concept of a name again today. But be aware that God's name, first and foremost, is how God is known, you might say. Maybe you've heard the expression, you make a name for yourself. I'm going to go out in the world and make a name for myself, right? That means that, like, I'm gonna become famous. I'm gonna become rich. People will know who I am. That's my name, and there's this very strong connection between your name and your reputation. And God cares how people see Him, because God wants people to give Him the highest place in their lives. And if people don't respect who He is, how is that going to happen? And since God gives His name to you and me, we ought to bear it in a way that glorifies Him and use it in a way that glorifies Him. Third commandment. Who remembers that one? Kaylee?
Remember the Sabbath day by keeping it holy.
Very good. Remember the Sabbath day by keeping it holy. So we talked a lot about worship with that one, and specifically in our rest, we ought to be learning and taking advantage of God's Word, which is what we get in droves in worship. And so the third commandment is designed to protect God's Word in that day of rest. Now, those are the first 3 commandments, also known as the first table of God's law. If you imagine 2 tablets of stone and you take the T off the word tablet, you get table. And so one stone tablet, you might say, had, we don't actually know what was on the stone tablets that Moses got from God, but we divide them up with the first 3 and the last 7 because the first 3 deal with God and the rest deal with society, with your neighbor, if you will. Who remembers the 4th commandment? Tim?
father and mother.
Honor your father and your mother. Very good. And remember, do you remember the move that we made? Do you just need to honor your father and your mother? Who is the broader people that we ought to honor? Like, what's the broader class of people that we should honor? I'm not phrasing the question very well. But if you remember from Luther's explanation, we should not just honor parents, but also other authorities. For example, the government, or your teachers, or your pastor, or anybody to whom your parents give authority. So the babysitter, something like that. Parents and other authorities. And the reason why this is so critically important is because this is not just the structure of the family, but it's the structure of all of society, that certain individuals are given the power, the authority to rule over others. And those who have been given authority are expected to use it to serve, and they will be accountable to God if they exploit others with that power. But this structure of the family extends outward into the structure of society. And so the fourth commandment, we say, is designed to protect society. Okay? If we did not have government managing things, and if we did not have the various structures in our world, things would kind of fall apart, and there would be chaos and anarchy. So, the fourth commandment is designed to protect society. What's the fifth commandment? Now we're getting into the ones that are just kind of like one or two words. You shall not. Fifth commandment, yeah? That's the sixth commandment. We'll get there. Yep.
Shall not murder.
Shall not murder. That's right. And so that commandment obviously is meant to protect life, which is quite important. The only human thing more important than life is all of the lives, which is basically society. So we definitely move from decreasing importance, beginning with the most important things and working our way down. That's true over here as well. And the sixth commandment, as Kaylee already told us, is you shall not commit adultery, and that is meant to protect marriage, which is both the foundation of the family and thus of society, as well as the place where new life is designed to come from. The marriage between a husband and wife is the proper place in which for children to be born. And we talked the entire class period last week about God's plan for marriage and our sexuality. I'm not going to belabor that point because it makes everybody uncomfortable, but definitely watch the video, Hayden and your sister, because it's you're expected to watch all the videos of all the classes that you've missed, so please make sure that she knows that as well. So now we finally get to the last four commandments, and the seventh commandment, anyone want to take a gander at what this one is? You shall not, Tim? Steal, very good. And this one is designed to protect possessions, which has lots of S's in it. Possessions, very good. You shall not steal. There's not a whole lot to say on this commandment, but I will be spending a little bit of time on it after, let's do it now, and then we'll take a break afterward and go play a stealing-themed game. So we are on, in your workbook, we're on page 31. Go ahead and turn to page 31 there in your workbook. Actually, once you get your workbook out, turn to page 29, because that's where the seventh commandment is. And we're going to start just by reading what the seventh commandment is and what Luther has to say about it in his Catechism. Aiden, did you forget your book today?
Yeah.
All right. So give me the seventh commandments there at the top of the page underneath the sixth one. Let's see, who wants to read? Timothy, thanks. Seventh commandment, you shall not steal. What does this mean?
Not steal. What does this mean? We should fear God, so we do not take our neighbor's money and possessions, forget them in a dishonest way, but help him ruin, protect his possessions, and income.
Very good. So we have, of course, the typical do not, followed by the do in Luther's explanation there. So obviously what you should not try to do is, are you ready for this? Steal. Pretty simple, right? Your neighbor has stuff, it's not your stuff, so don't steal his stuff. It ain't rocket surgery, it's pretty basic. Do not steal. And there's one aspect of it that we'll look at in a moment, but what does it say? Do not take your neighbor's money possessions or get them in a dishonest way. How would you put that in a word? Don't steal and don't cheat. How about that? Do not steal, do not cheat. That's good because the typical definition of cheating, like in school, is also a form of stealing. If you're taking somebody else's answers and calling them your own, that's cheating. That's getting something in a dishonest way. Even if they offer it to you for some reason, that's still a form of stealing. You're stealing a lot of intangible things. You know it's wrong. So this is where we're shoehorning it. It's that sort of thing is under the 7th commandment. Don't steal, don't get stuff in a dishonest way, but do help your neighbor to improve and protect his possessions and income. So improve and protect neighbors' stuff. Only because the word possessions is too long. So you've got stuff, your neighbor's got stuff, don't take your neighbor's stuff. But more than that, help your neighbor to improve and protect his stuff. So, for example, we talked about sins of commission and sins of omission. What's a sin of commission? Like, what does it mean to have a sin of commission? Tim?
You do the thing?
Right, you do the thing that's bad, right? So then, with that in mind, what is a sin of omission? Tim?
You don't do the thing that you should do.
You don't do what you know that you should do. So with the 7th commandment here, it's a really simple way to explain that. Suppose you look out your window at night and you see somebody you've never seen before break the window of the house next door and climb inside. And you don't see any lights turn on. They're sneaking around in there. So you know they've got a thief crawling in their house. What if you just did nothing? What if you just shrugged your shoulders and went to bed? Maybe locked your door so the thief didn't hit your house next. Would that be doing the right thing? No, you're not stealing from your neighbor, right? That other guy is, but not you. You're innocent. That's a sin of omission. Obviously, you should do something to help your neighbor. Now, does that mean go over there with a gun and confront the criminal? Probably not. That would be very unwise. But call the police, call your neighbor. There are things you can do to help your neighbor to improve and protect their possessions and income. Income's important as well, and that leads into the other thing I want to talk about. So go ahead to page 31 here.
How did you guys know someone stole the quilt?
Caught him on camera. Well, I smelled popcorn because the individuals made popcorn, and I smelled popcorn the next day, and I was like, I didn't make any popcorn. And I went downstairs and I saw that somebody had been downstairs and messing around with the popcorn and stuff. So I looked on the cameras and I found out who they were. And I didn't think much of it because there's like $10 of damage. They ate some popcorn and they dumped out some oil because they don't know how to make popcorn. And then the next day, I went and checked on the basement and it had been messed around with again. So I knew we had some serial thieves going on, meaning multiple times. So I decided to just pick up from the footage where I left off, and it turns out that first night when they stole popcorn, they came back a second time, and they left carrying large boxes. Each of them had a big box, and then the next night they came back, and they only hit the church once that night, but they left each carrying a large box. And I was like, where on earth do we have large boxes, And I went down there and started looking in the rooms and stuff, and sure enough, the quilters, we have a quilting group that makes quilts. Every quilt is worth about $100 probably, and there were a dozen quilts stolen. So sadly, that made the theft the level of a felony, which I don't know where the threshold is. There's a certain amount that you have to steal before it's considered a felony, but a felony is a permanent mark against you for the rest of your life. So those boys are in a very bad way. Anyway, yeah, they smiled for the camera, so we identified them. I submitted the picture to the police officer in town, and he ID'd them, and
They smiled.
they didn't literally smile, but they.
I saw a picture. They both looked at the camera.
Yes, they did both look at the camera, and turns out they were living by themselves. The one of them had been kicked out of his house. Neither of his parents wanted him. The other one had been kicked out of his house years ago and was living with his brothers and was trying to help his friend out. And so all the quilts were recovered, and I don't know what became of the one boy. The other one went back to live with his brothers, and I'm waiting for a note of apology from him. I'd like to meet him and maybe extend to him the help of the church. Because, yeah, what they did was wrong, obviously. But what we as the church want to do is help our neighbor to improve and protect his possessions and income. And the fact that literally the only things they stole were food and blankets means that they were not out. Like, we have TVs down there, you know. They didn't steal our TVs. There's all kinds of things that a teenage boy would want to steal if he was looking for trouble. But these guys just wanted to eat and, not freeze. So my heart goes out to them, but at the same time, what they did was wrong. So I would like them to return here and repent and be forgiven, and then we can talk about how we can help them in a real, tangible way. But the ball's in their court now. In any case, yeah, we have cameras. They were installed so that we would be able to see if somebody came in with like a gun and wanted to attack our church, because there's shootings in churches around the country. It's extremely unlikely that it would happen to us, but since the cameras were there, they're motion activated, so I was able to look at them and figure all that out.
I figured they'd be like loud and like wake you up or something. That's how I thought you caught them or something.
No, they'd have to be really loud. I'm pretty sure you could if you stood in the sanctuary and opened the window facing my house and shouted out the window, "Hey, bastard!" then I might wake up. But otherwise, sound doesn't travel that well. Nope, it was just they didn't cover their tracks very well. Anyway, yeah, so our church has had to deal with theft recently, and it's no fun. I wasted a lot of time looking through hours of footage of cats tripping the motion sensors outside the glass doors and stuff like that before I finally found what I was looking for, and it was just a big waste.
Cats tripping it?
Yeah. Well, our cameras are motion detected. They're not always recording. They only record when they see something move. Huh?
Are any directly in the building?
No, the cats don't enter the building.
No, I mean like cameras.
Yeah, our cameras are inside the buildings.
When they get caught.
They're filming every exit. You should just find a camera sometime and let me get on with the lesson. Okay, so yeah, life's I'm paraphrasing this stuff because we got to get moving. The one thing I want to say, in addition to what's already been there, is something that you guys probably haven't had to deal with. Aiden, you might have. It's about work and actually doing a job for money, which pretty much everybody who is of able mind and body should do when they're old enough. You guys are students, and so I would. Yes, you are. Tim.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, Tim, kind of look of shock. Really, I'm a student. So you guys are students, and your job right now is to learn and grow, and that's fine. But eventually, you're going to have to feed yourself. You should not just be a leech on society and sit around and be lazy. You should get a job. But when you have a job, you should actually work at that job. And I know that sounds like duh, but you'd be surprised at the attitude that a lot of people have is, I go to work, I clock in, I'm being paid per hour, and then I just kind of sit around, I really don't want to do much. I might break a sweat if I have to bend over and lift something, or my boss is a jerk, so I don't really want to do what he says. So I'm just gonna just sit around, and what are they gonna do? Fire me? I'll just go get a job somewhere else. Then that's the wrong attitude to have. When you enter into an agreement as a worker, you and your employer whoever that may be, you have an agreement where you give your labor, it's called, as a technical term for it, and they give you money. And there's a lot of protections in place by the government to make sure that your employer can't stiff you out of your money. Okay, if you show up to work and you are under their employ, or you're expected to work for them, then they owe you money for that work. There's not as many protections for your employer against lazy workers. If your employer thinks you're too lazy, they can fire you. So I guess there's that. But otherwise, there's this agreement here. And a lot of people kind of like to skimp on the labor and think, well, I showed up, didn't I? That's good enough. And it's just a really bad attitude. So I'm going to go ahead and put this out there that if you are lazy on your job, if you do not do the job that you know you are getting paid to do, then you are stealing from your employer, because they're still giving you money, but you're not giving them anything in return, at least not what you ought to be giving. God's word says that when you work, says whatever you do, whether you eat or drink or work, you do it all for the glory of the Lord who made you. And so do it all as if you're doing it for Jesus. So no matter who your boss is, you should work as though your boss is Jesus himself, which means that you should try to be delighted. I know emotionally you might not always feel like you're delighted, but try to have a good attitude. You'd be surprised. If you try hard enough to have a good attitude, eventually you'll just have one. So that is a form of theft that you guys have probably not had to deal with yet, but believe me, it's there, and it's very common, especially in the younger generations. It's almost like cool. I once had a guy brag to me that he got paid to do a job, and then the guy who paid him went away, and so he decided to lie down in a hammock and take a 4-hour nap. And then he woke up and he got to work, and when the boss man came back, he found him busy, and so he paid him for a full day's work, even though he'd taken a nap for 4 hours. And the guy was bragging to me, a pastor. I was his pastor, actually, not from this church. But as his pastor, he thought it was appropriate to brag to me that he got paid to take a nap. And I'm like, dude, that's stealing. You got paid to do a job that you didn't do. And you got away with it, but that's just like a thief getting away with what he stole. So don't be that guy. When you enter into an agreement with an employer, hold up your end of the deal, and everything will be good. Okay, let's take a break, and I want to go outside. I've got a game set up called Steal the Bacon. I don't know if you guys have heard of that game yet, but we're gonna steal some bacon for a while, and it has nothing. There's no lesson here except that you shall not steal, and so this game's about stealing. So let's go steal some bacon. Yep, you're coming with me, Brooklyn. Anybody else who happens to be watching this? Hi, hungry. I'm pastor. Yep, there's food over there. You can have some. Yep. Look at that delicious food that I provided you guys. Got chips and different chips and zebra cakes and plastic wrap. Okay. Well, we gotta wait for Aiden. I'm gonna hit the pause button while we wait for Aiden. You know what I'm going to do? Rather than hit the pause button, we're going to go and take a look at that poster, because I don't think you can see it on the camera. So there is our shiny new poster with the stuff on the Apostles' Creed. There's the heading, the Creed. And there it is. Take a freeze frame or whatever, because this is what you got to memorize. All right, very good. That's that. Aiden, you out? Alrighty, let's head out to the sandbox. Past the sandbox, actually. I could only find 3 cones, so I'm just going to be the referee.
3 cones?
Yep, 3 cones. It's a little bit cold, but don't worry, you'll be running. Don't be a baby, come on. It's not that cold. It's probably the last time we'll get to do anything outside in confirmation class. Okay, each of you take a cone. Each of the cones is 5 steps away from the football in the middle. You know, I just took steps, so maybe one of them is closer, but it's okay. It's going to work out well. Okay, so the object of this game is when I say go, you have to start at your cone. You go and you grab the football and you take it back to your cone. Now, this is not a very violent game. If somebody else has the football, then you can tag them. And if you get tagged while holding the football, you have to return it to the center. And you don't get a point. If you manage to get the football and touch your cone, then you get to move your cone back a step and put the ball back in the middle of the arena there for the next round. Any questions? No violence. Oh, yeah. All right. On your mark, get set, go! Steal that bacon. Oh, okay. Tim got tagged. Put it back, Tim. Okay, keep going. The bacon, the round is still on, so you don't have to go back. Yeah. Oh, Tim, you got tagged again. Put it back. Okay, but it's still. Oh, she got it! All right. Kaylee wins the first round. Okay, so go ahead and put the ball back in the middle. And then take your cone and move it back hold your cone, walk a step, and then sit it down. There you go. So now it's like a little bit harder for you, see? See how that goes? Okay, and steal the bacon, go. Oh, he got tagged. Okay, just gonna go for it. The tension's rising. Yeah? Oh, shoot. Oh, well, that's a technique. Yep, okay, so now the bacon is over there. What is this? Do I have to invent rules about kicking? There it is. All right. Ooh, Aiden, you moved it a lot. All right. Back in the middle there. Okay, back to your cone, Tim. That was clever. I'm glad I did not invent any rules about kicking it because you guys did it way better than the rules would. All right, and go. Steal the bacon. Uh-oh, Kaylee's going to get it now. I'm not being a very good cameraman. Yeah, it's an interesting idea that Timothy has there, but it hasn't paid off for him yet.
Yeah, it hasn't got paid off for me yet.
Well, it's also a football, so it's not really... Whoop! Oh, she got tagged. Back to the middle. And go. Oh, Aiden's stealing that idea. And not stealing the bacon, though. I feel like that's not really the middle, but yeah, that's about the middle. Oh, I guess that counts. All right, move your cone back one step. You each have 1 point. Move your cone back a step. There you go. Okay, you each have 1 point, so the winner of the next round takes the game. And go, steal the bacon.
Steal the bacon, guys.
Did he get him? Oh, I'm not a very good referee. Oh, shoot. All right, Tim, good job. All right, Tim, you want to gather up those cones? Those are just our cones, so, and football too. Might as well do something with it. Good job, guys. Now that I know you're good at stealing, I have to remind you that stealing is wrong and you shouldn't do it, even when it is delicious bacon.
Why do you have to choose Teddy's football?
Because it was the first football I found when I came outside. I was like, I need a MacGuffin to steal, and then I found a football, and I was like, there you go. And then I realized that the game Steal the Bacon probably got its name from it being a football, because footballs used to be pigskin. Oh, speaking of pigskin, here comes a dog. Hey, DOG. That's his name, DOG, because that's how you spell dog. Thank you. Okay, I asked him to gather the cones. I didn't mean for him to take them into the house, but... Your book goes on a bit of a sidetrack on online piracy. Now, are you familiar with like piracy at all? Like downloading stuff that is not technically legal to download, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Like video games that you haven't paid for or movies or stuff. Is that a common thing anymore?
Yes.
Illegal website?
Well, like, I don't know. So like, yeah, so it started off with music. This was back like when I was your age. The internet was kind of new, and there was a service called Napster, where if you had a digital version of a song, you could share it with anybody who wanted to download it, and then they could download a copy, and then they would have it. And people would share entire albums, cost like $16 for a CD full of music, and rather than going to the store and buying it, you could just download it from Napster. And it was really bad for the music industry, especially the brick and mortar stores. And eventually, music companies got smart. They tried to fight it for a long time, but it's very, very difficult to stop online piracy. So in the end, they realized that if they just make their own streaming service and give people what they actually want and charge a modest fee for it, most people will just pay the fee because it's easy. The one bad thing about piracy, besides it being morally wrong, was that it was not very user-friendly. You kind of had to know your way around a computer, and there was a lot of risk of viruses and stuff. So just to have an easy way to download music pretty much squashed the Napster era of piracy. And similar things with video streaming and video games, ROMs and stuff, but I don't really think that's as prevalent as it used to be. You guys are familiar with it. I mean, it happens, but it's wrong, right? It's stealing. It is. Even though you're making a digital copy of something and you're not actually walking out of a store with a physical object, I think it's pretty clear that that's stealing. So your book makes a big deal about that because I think it used to be a bigger deal, but times change, and so does the art of sinning. That said, now we're going to move on to the 8th commandment, which is on page 33 in your book. Your book even combines the 8th through 10th commandments all together. So I'm just shoehorning in the 7th quick, and we're going to have to really move fast in these. The 8th commandment, Kaylee, can you read it for us, please?
Sorry. You shall not give false testimony against your neighbor. What does this mean? We should fear and love God so that we do not tell lies about our neighbor, betray him, slander him, or hurt his reputation, but defend him, speak well of him, and explain everything in the kindest way.
Very good. So I'm just going to continue the do not thing here. First of all, the word here that goes here, what the 8th commandment is trying to protect is your reputation. Who can tell me what a reputation is?
I know.
Yeah?
How people think about you.
It's what people think of you, right? It is how you are known. And a reputation is a very fragile thing. It takes a long time to build up a good reputation, and your reputation can be undone in a moment with one very bad, very public bad decision. It can even be undone when you do everything right. If somebody starts spreading lies about you and people believe them. And so that is what the 8th commandment is meant to protect. A lot of people summarize the 8th commandment by saying you shall not lie, but that's not right. The 8th commandment is you shall not give false testimony against your neighbor. It's very courtroom language, right? If you're standing in a court of law and your neighbor is charged with some wrongdoing, you definitely should not stand up there and tell lies about your neighbor because you want to get him convicted of something he didn't do. That would be the narrowest definition of false testimony against your neighbor. But as Luther likes to do, he expands the nature of the 8th commandment to be more of a teaching tool for us. And what he says here is you should not tell lies about your neighbor, betray him, slander him, or hurt his reputation. So I'm just going to sum that up as slander. Slander and betray is, I'll define those words in just a moment, as I know you know what betray means, but there's a specific meaning that Luther has in mind here that I'll share with you in a moment. And then likewise, what you should do is defend your neighbor and speak well of him. Now, you guys probably have figured out that it is a lot easier and a lot more popular to say bad things about somebody than to say good things, right? Oh my goodness, did you see what she was wearing yesterday? Oh my gosh, she looked stupid. She looked like a toad, don't you think so? Oh yeah, she looked really dumb, and it's very easy to pile on to somebody and speak unkindly of them. It's a lot harder and a lot braver to be like, hey, I don't care if she didn't dress nicely. You shouldn't talk about her like that. That's going to get you, poo-pooed. That's going to make you less popular. But at the same time, that's going to be following God's law. The eighth commandment, I think, for a lot of people, especially in your stage of life, the eighth commandment is probably going to be where you are tested, I don't want to say most intensely, but maybe most often to sin, and you have the most opportunity to stand against sin and speak well of those that others would slander. What does it mean to slander somebody? Anybody? No. So close. It means to say bad stuff about them. That's the bottom line. Legally, I think the bad stuff has to be false. But interestingly, when you are dealing with reputation, truth and falsehood kind of takes a back seat. Whether the person is actually guilty of the thing that they're being slandered about, you should still defend them as much as you can and speak well of them, right? So if everybody's making fun of what's-her-face for wearing something stupid, you don't have to act like it wasn't stupid. If she wore something stupid and you're like, yeah, that was pretty stupid, you don't have to make stuff up and be like, it wasn't stupid, but you should still defend her, because, making a bad fashion choice doesn't make you a bad person. You should still stick up for people especially who can't stick up for themselves, as gossip often deals with, people who aren't present. And let's see, there's a lot that can be said about gossip, but I'm partial to a story that I once heard about, this is a girl went to her pastor because she wanted to confess her sins, and and the pastor, heard her, and she said, I'm sorry, I told a lie about somebody else at school, and now the whole school thinks that she did this stupid thing that she didn't really do, and I feel awful about it. Will you please forgive me? And the pastor said, I'll forgive you, but here's something I want you to do. I want you to take a pillow and take it up to the topmost window of your house, the attic or whatever, and I want you to hold the pillow out the window, and I want you to rip it open and let all the feathers just kind of fly out of the pillow. And she thought that was really weird, but her pastor told her to do it, so she did it. And then she came back, and she was like, okay, I did it. I stuck the pillow out the window, and now there's feathers everywhere. And the pastor said, okay, now I want you to go around the neighborhood and gather up all the feathers and stuff them back into the pillow. And she was like horrified. She's like, that's impossible. I can't see those feathers. Who knows where they've gone now? They're probably being built in a bird nest or something like that. You want me to go gather them all? And the pastor said, not really, but what I do want you to realize is that your one act of telling a lie about somebody has created a whole wave of bad things about her that aren't even true, and you can never get those back. You cannot untell a lie. Once you say something, it's out there. And this is especially true in situations like social media and cyberbullying. I think cyberbullying is a little bit newer than this book, really, but it is a very, very intense form of slander because you can't ever take that away. At least when you speak a word of slander, it's spoken and then it's done. But if you are posting videos or writing songs or doing other things that slander people and sharing it online, even if you unshare it, who's to say that nobody else downloaded it and can share it whenever they want? So Yeah, the digital world adds a whole new dimension to slander that makes it very, very difficult to to deal with. So be very careful that you don't slander and don't end up like this. And if you do hear slander happening, remember that you have a duty to defend and speak well of your neighbor. There's one other idea here that I haven't touched, and that is to betray. And in this case, when Luther says you should not betray your neighbor, he's not just talking about like stab him in the back or something like that, but he's referring specifically to the act of betraying a secret. If your neighbor tells you a secret, and I don't mean like I'm going to shoot up the school next week or something. That's we'll get a touch on that in a second. But I mean like a secret, like I like Kimmy. Does any of you know a girl named Kimmy?
No.
Okay, good. So your friend tells you, I'm hoping for somebody that's not in real life.
Actually,
So,
I do know.
Okay, well, forget about her. It's not about her. But your friend goes to you and confides you in secret. I have a crush on Kimmy. I really like her. And you can tell your friend is kind of, shy and doesn't want this being blabbed to the whole school. You are the keeper of that secret. And you have a duty under the 8th commandment to keep that secret. And your friend is trusting you, and to share a secret that has been told to you is to betray that secret and betray that friend. And the book of Proverbs actually speaks well of secrets. I know secrets can have a bad reputation, and there are bad secrets. For example, if your friend confides in you that they're going to shoot up the school, that's not a secret that needs to be kept. That is a plan for the future that needs to be stopped, and so you need to take appropriate action there. There are good secrets and bad secrets, and I would say a quick and dirty way to tell the difference is that good secrets have a time limit, right? So if I buy my wife what would I buy her? If I buy my wife a set of gold earrings, and she, and I'm going to give them to her for Christmas. So I've got them wrapped up, and she looks at the gift and shakes it. It's like, is that a set of gold earrings? I'm going to look her dead in the eye and say, nope, because that's a secret, and I want to keep a secret from her. But it's a good secret because there's a time limit. What's the time limit? Christmas Day. She's going to open up the gold earrings and be surprised, and it's a happy secret, and then it's not a secret anymore, And similarly, your friend who likes Kimmy, one day he's either going to do something about that or get over it. And either way, the secret will expire. Kimmy probably still wouldn't like you blabbing to Kimmy that he used to like her or something. But I mean, the point is that good secrets have an expiration date, whereas bad secrets, like don't tell your mom that I did this awful thing. There's no expiration on that. You're just supposed to take that evil thing to the grave. So that's a bad kind of secret. But yeah, when you're dealing with friends and they share a secret with you, you should not betray that secret. That is a violation of the 8th commandment. Okay. I have a note here. Let me read it quickly. I don't have enough people to do this activity that I have done, which is a shame. But just remember that lies spread faster than the truth, right? If you tell a lie about somebody, it's like tearing open a pillowcase and dumping out the feathers. And if you tell the truth, right, or if you stand up for somebody, it's kind of like picking up a handful of feathers. You've done a good thing, but you can't, it takes a lot of work to undo the damage done by a lie. Okay, any questions on the 7th or 8th commandments? We're just moving right along there, yeah. Okay, turn to page 35 in your workbook, because now we're going to look at the 9th and 10th commandments. And the 9th and 10th commandments are very different than all the rest, because all the rest of them are broken by actions. But the 9th and 10th commandments are actually only broken by thoughts. Can I get a volunteer to turn back to page 33 and read the 9th commandment? You shall not covet your neighbor's house and its meaning. Kaylee, I assume you're going to do it since you turned. Don't worry, Tim will get the 10th.
Okay. You shall not covet your neighbor's house. What does this mean? We should fear and love God so that we do not, scheme to
Oh,
get,
that's your phone.
yeah,
I thought I was hitting my guitar or something. Okay, go ahead.
to get our neighbor's inheritance or house, or get it in a way which only appears right, but help and be of service to him in keeping it.
Very good. So the 9th commandment deals specifically with the verb is to covet. I'm going to go ahead and put that up here. And what does it mean to covet? You shall not covet your neighbor's house. It's very rare that you hear this word outside of the 10 commandments. There's exactly one place where I've encountered the word covet outside of the discussion on the 10 commandments. It's the Legend of Zelda the Wind Waker, by the way. But in any case, what does covet mean? Yeah?
Steal.
Not to steal. Yeah.
Like to take for yourself.
No, not even to take for yourself. It's hard. It's very hard to define the word covet. In fact, I'm trying to think of what I'm going to say
Hurt
exactly.
somebody for yourself.
Huh?
Hurt somebody and take something for himself.
Nope. Coveting is a sin of the mind, and it means to, I'm just going to put, this is a cop-out, but I'm going to put sinfully desire what is not yours. That is what it means to covet something. You want something. Now, I have to immediately qualify this because it is not a sin to desire something. For example, if I like Aiden's shoes, the correct thing to do would be like, yo, Aiden, I like your shoes. Where'd you get them? And then Aiden would tell me where to get them. And then, I'll go and buy myself a pair. And now I've got the shoes that I want, right? That's a good thing. A bad thing would be like, hey, Aiden, I like your shoes. Let me have them. Give them to me. I deserve them more than you. And of course, Aiden, you already scoffed. You're like, no, I'm not giving you my shoes. And so then I go off and I start scheming. I really want those shoes. What can I do to part Aiden from his shoes? Where does he take them off at night? And I get to, now I haven't done anything, right? I have not stolen Aiden's shoes. They're still on his feet in his possession, but I'm already sinning because I'm coveting. I am sinfully desiring what is not mine. And coveting is so bad that it actually gets 2 commandments. Both the 9th and 10th commandments deal with coveting. The difference is what you are coveting. Because the 9th commandment, as Kaylee read, is you shall not covet your neighbor's house. And Martin Luther expands on the idea of a house to be anything that a person owns. So their house, the land that it's on, but also the stuff inside of it. Their money, their whatever their material things are that you might want to steal, you should not covet those things. And yeah, so that's bad. Let me see, are there any good? Let's take a look at page 35 here. We're going to open our catechisms now. Do you have your catechism, Aiden? All right. Let's go to question 88 in your catechism. You have a little bit of time. 88 miles per hour. Sorry, that's how fast Doc and Marty have to go to get back to the future. 80 miles per hour. We're going to question 88. You watched Back to the Future with us, right, Tim?
Yeah.
Okay, good. I know at least one of you should get that reference then. It's an old movie, but it checks out.
What page is that?
Huh?
What page is it?
Oh, it's page 116. Yeah, I think we're past the part where Luther himself wrote numbered questions. So you have to actually go into the explanation section of the catechism, which is where we've always been. Question 88, what is coveting? Aiden, can you read that one for us, please?
Coveting is sinful desire in our hearts to
Acquire, yeah.
for ourselves anything that belongs to our neighbor. It is also the desire to draw away from our neighbor for our own benefit. Anyone who is important to our neighbor, a spouse, friend, and so on.
Very good. I forgot that even your catechism combines the 9th and 10th commandments together. So we've been dealing so far with coveting of possessions, but there is also I know what word I'm going to write there, but not yet. There's also the 10th commandment, which deals with more than just possessions. Timothy, you get to read that one for us, please. It's at the top of page 33 in your workbook. It's also in your catechism if you happen to find it. It's the same words. It's actually like on the middle of page 33, because page 33 gets kind of long.
You shall not covet your neighbor's house.
No, next one.
You shall not covet your neighbor's wife, or manservant, or maidservant, ox, or donkey, or anything that belongs to your neighbor.
First of all, that was the whole commandment, everything that he just read there.
Yes.
That commandment is a bit of a mouthful. And then what does this mean?
What does this mean? To fear and love God, so that we do not
Entice.
force away our neighbor's wife, workers, or animals, or turn them against him, but urge them to stay and do their duty.
Very good. So that word entice, what does entice mean? Should not entice or force away your neighbor's wife, workers, or animals.
Like to ask to give their thing away.
To ask your neighbor to give that away?
Yeah. Or to try taking it from them in a way that's not necessarily going to their house and trying to steal it.
Right. So you're on the right track. The reason why this 10th commandment is separated from the 9th when they both deal with coveting is that they go very different directions. Huh?
Or you know?
What's that?
Coveting your house, like coveting their stuff, when your neighbor's wife, manser, or maidservant are things that you wouldn't necessarily say are their house, and they're living things.
Yes, very good. That is the difference. So if I covet Aiden's shoes, I'm going to stay on that for a bit. It may blossom into a sin whereby I steal Aiden's shoes. But if I covet Aiden's wife or girlfriend or whatever, Aiden obviously doesn't have a wife. But if I covet another man's wife, I can't just like walk into his house while he's sleeping and steal her off the shoe shelf. That's not where she is. Yeah, and even if I did, that would not work very well. She would not like me, and of course that's what I really covet when I covet my neighbor's wife. Is I don't covet just the woman, but I covet the love that she has for him. I want her to love me like she loves him. And so, if you covet a person or an animal, if you covet a living thing with free will, then you cannot just walk in and take it like you can a pair of shoes or a TV or something. If you covet that, then you kind of get into deeper levels of manipulation to try to get what you want. So, if I covet my neighbor's wife, I might talk to her in the guise of friendship and maybe let slip something disparaging about her husband. Yeah, I saw your husband working hard out there, and then he quit after 15 minutes. If I'd been working there, if I were your husband, I would have worked until the job was done, even if it took 3 hours. So it's a shame that your husband's so weak and doesn't really love you. And you see what I'm doing is I'm slandering her husband, but it's all in an attempt to get her to come to me. So if you do it right, and by right I mean wrong morally, but if you do it right, nobody will be able to accuse you of anything, right? All that anybody else would see is that his wife left him and came to me. And that's fine. She's a free-willed individual. She can do that. I mean, divorce is bad, but barring that, I'm not guilty of her divorce, but I am because I was the one feeding her all of these lies about her husband. A more simple example of enticing would be like for an animal. If you really want your neighbor's dog to be your dog, then you might give that dog treats, you know. That was a very bad whistle. Come here, boy, you know, I got a treat for you. Yeah, all right, this way. You love me more than you love them, don't you? Yeah, hey, come on over here. And so animals are simpler creatures, so it's easier to entice them away. But regardless of that, the act of coveting looks very different for possessions versus people, to the point that we actually have two different commandments: one for coveting one for coveting possessions, and the other for coveting people and animals. There is a solution to coveting. Well, the ultimate solution to all of these sins is Jesus, of course, who died on the cross to pay the punishment for the sins that we commit, so that we are now free from their consequences and can focus on doing them for their own sake. We'll talk more about that next week. But the opposite of covetousness, and I hate doing it this way because parts of speech, but covet is a verb, and what I'm writing here is called contentment. Contentment is being happy with what you have. And it's very fitting that we're talking about contentment here in the month of November, because what is the big holiday in November?
Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving, yes. And Thanksgiving is a celebration of contentment. Thanksgiving is when you take a break from all of the things you wish you had, and you just look at all of the things that you actually have and say, wow, I am blessed. Thank you, God, for giving me all these things. And you know, so the action is giving thanks, but the attitude is contentment, when you are just happy with what you have. And then the day after Thanksgiving, we throw all of that out the window, and we have Black Friday, which seems to be celebrated even more than Thanksgiving. And Black Friday is literally like a celebration of the opposite of contentment. Black Friday is when all the companies say, ooh, you know all that stuff that you've always wanted? We have a sale. Come to our website or to our store or wherever you want to shop, and shop till you drop and spend money you don't have, and get all that stuff that you wish you could be thankful for yesterday. But I hate that Black Friday has become a celebrated holiday in our culture. I understand that since Thanksgiving is on a Thursday and Christmas is a month away, that Black Friday is obviously the best day to take off work and go buy your Christmas gifts for people. And so I get where it came from, that people used to spend money on gifts for others, and now they spend money on themselves. But I just think it's so sad that we have just grown to accept covetousness basically as a way of life, consumerism, covetousness. And contentment is the enemy of all that. The companies who are trying to sell you crap do not want you to be content. You know how you oftentimes to see something for free online, you have to look at ads, right? Advertisements. We are bombarded with so many advertisements. You drive along the road, there's billboards advertising to you. You watch anything on TV or on the internet, there's going to be commercials, there's going to be ads. And those ads are all saying lots and lots of different things, but they're all built on the basic premise, which is that you don't have enough. You should not be content with what you have. And so contentment is perhaps one of the most difficult attitudes to cultivate in our specific culture, because everywhere you go, you are seeing the opposite message. But that is what I'm going to put here, is contentment. So the 9th and 10th commandments are there to serve as reminders that you should be content with what you have. And sometimes, if you want something, what you have is the money to buy it. Or what you have is the ability to make yourself more attractive so that you can get a good wife like your neighbor has. Not your neighbor's good wife or good husband, but you know, there's billions of people in the world. I'm sure you'll find somebody who is good for you. But you know, if you don't want to be lonely, you have the capacity to make friends and be a good friend. And if you want things, you have the capacity to work and get money and buy those things. And that's all well and good. But there's, I think you understand by now the difference between a good desire and a covetous desire. But if you are content, you are happy with what you have, and the cycle ends, the cycle breaks. Very good. Okay, yeah, that sums up the Catechism on the 7th through 10th commandment. Thank you guys for pushing through that grueling punch with me. I have memory work for you guys here. I'm being very generous. I'm not making you memorize the 10th commandment this time, because the original assignment I was going to have you do 3 commandments. So this is just going to be 8th and 9th. Please do memorize them though, because this is your homework. Remember, I'm not giving you homework because I fall behind on grading so often that I feel dishonest asking you to do homework. But I might need to reinstate homework if you guys are clearly not putting in the extra time to learn your memory verses. I also have an invitation for each of you to our ACT, Active Christian Teens Youth Group. We're having our first regular meeting of the year this Sunday evening. And so...
advertisements really are everywhere.
You got me. It's an invitation though, not an advertisement. Yes?
When is the lock-in?
So we're not doing a fall lock-in this year because the dates just didn't work out. We've picked a date in late winter, early spring, and I forget what that date is. But we've definitely got a date, and we have plans to do a lock-in on that date.
Okay, because
but it's not fall.
My buddy about last year, or last lock-in, he asked when it was because he wants to go again.
Awesome.
And then my mom was wondering, so...
I really wanted to do one in the fall, but there was a major playoff game that Saturday. It was a Saturday before Halloween, or Friday, sorry, the Friday before Halloween, which would have been, October 31 minus 7th, so 25th? Anyway, that Friday, there was a big postseason game that a lot of kids were at in Fergus Falls, and we decided that it just wasn't a good time for a lock-in. And then the next week was Halloween. Halloween was a Friday this year, so that took away a date that would have been good. And the previous Friday, there was just ordinary games. So everything revolves around sports and hunting, and we have to deal with it. So there is a good sports-free day in spring that we're aiming for the lock-in. So yes, it is a definite plan at this point. Any other questions? All right, I hope you can make it to the ACT event. I'm looking forward to it. Let's close with the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.